This is Mayor Pro Tem Dave DeMott. I wanted to share some information that I got at a town hall that was hosted by Representative Shannon Byrd and Senator Rachel Zenzinger this Saturday. They keyed it up as a public safety. They had the Chief of Police from Arvada and the Acting Chief of Police Norm Halbert from the City of Westminster, as well as the DA from Jefferson County, Alexis King. And they talked about the different legislation that went on this last session, and how they feel that really is addressing crime. I disagree on a number of the issues. Some of what came out, obviously, everything has its finer points. By and by, though, I am disappointed with what we've seen in the state legislature. One of the things that Senator Zenzinger said at this meeting was that, it's very little the impact that they can do from the state level. It's really the local that addresses the crime problems that we're seeing in our communities with the out-of-control auto theft and carjackings and fentanyl problems and catalytic converters and all the rising crime that we've seen. I would argue wholeheartedly with that sentiment that somehow they're not responsible. I hold them wholly responsible. One of the things that came out in the meeting was Chief Halbert from Westminster was talking about the shortage of around 26 or so officers in the city of Westminster, and that functionally we're more about 40 short from things like paternity leave to people being out for injury or sick, or a variety of different reasons that people might not be actively working, leaving us to have to use a lot of overtime. With that being said, the chief of police from Arvada said they were very similar. And they had talked about some grants and stuff that the state is doing. The chief from our department in Westminster was very clear that it's not a money problem. And this is what I'd like to talk about. I want to go back to the summer of 2020 when there was unrest. And obviously, nobody wants bad police out of policing more than good police. That I can promise you. And I share that sentiment with them. However, what our state legislator did with what they called the Law Enforcement Integrity Bill, which is Senate Bill 2217, broke the trust with our police officers. And over the last 2 years, we've seen a big exodus from policing in general, or from policing in Colorado, where people might go to different states, or maybe they go to more rural communities where they feel that they're more appreciated. A variety of different reasons that I've heard from officers I know personally who have decided to leave the industry. And a lot of that started with what was keyed the Law Enforcement Integrity Bill. So to say that the legislator does not impact what happens with our local crime is very disingenuous at best. Because I know, talking to law enforcement, the problem we're having is having people who want to do that job anymore, people who are leaving that job. I respect the people who do that job. That's a very difficult job. But those people deserve to know that in the state of Colorado, in the city of Westminster, and the cities surrounding us, that if they're doing their job and they're doing it within the confines of the law, that they are going to be protected in doing that job and that they are appreciated. That is not what our state legislator has done or said to them in the last 2 years. And I'll just point straight to the number in crimes in the state of Colorado and in the nation, frankly. But look in the state of Colorado. Has the laws they've put in place in the last 2 years, have they made it better or worse? Starting with Senate Bill 2217. We can talk details, and if you ever want to call me offline, I'm open to talking to you about my opinion of it, or I could get you experts who can tell you the facets of that bill and from my mind, how damaging it was. There were some good things in it, and even law enforcement said that. Law enforcement was asked to the table very late in the game. But those kind of things are what is damaging the state of Colorado. If you look at things that the state legislator has done around, say, misdemeanor crime, for example, this reclassifying many different misdemeanors that they've done over the last year or so. One example I would give you is if you have an automobile and it's under, I think, $2,000 worth of value, it is now a misdemeanor for someone to have stolen your vehicle. So if you're a working class person who has a car that you're just hoping gets you to work every day and it gets stolen, that car is only a misdemeanor crime. How does that help working class Colorado and stop crime in the state of Colorado? It does not. If you look at what they've done with fentanyl, there's some good things in there where they give some tools in order to stop big dealers. But if you look at the things like catalytic converter crime, where they've made a special law where they're going after people with catalytic converter crimes, who do you think is stealing those? That is fueling people's drug addictions. And so with the fentanyl bill, now if you have a gram of fentanyl, which I'll add, is enough to kill 500 individuals, that's only a misdemeanor in Colorado. Originally, what passed through the House was 4 grams, which is enough to kill 2,000 people. But that's a misdemeanor because we don't want to go after the addict. In my opinion, if you need to stop an addict who's on a drug binge, who is stealing to fuel their drug binge, the only way to stop that from happening and get them some resources to get them out of the cycle of addiction is to stop the crime and punish them for the crime. They talk about, that you don't want to, if somebody unknowingly has fentanyl, our judicial system has the ability to look at a crime and decide if they can plead something down if they think that it's too harsh. But taking away the ability to say that's a felony for that kind of drug, that I'll add is the number one killer of adults in the U.S., of adults from 18 to 45. This is a big problem. So what I would suggest to you is, when you hear from your legislators, who all of a sudden now are all very pro-police, although over the last 2 years they've made their job very difficult, I'd ask them, how do these bills made things better? What can you do to make police know that they're appreciated and hold people who break the law in Colorado, hold them accountable? And I will be honest and clear about one other thing. I don't care if these bills were bipartisan or not. I keep having that thrown in my face. Bad law is bad law. When somebody calls me and says that they were victimized and their car was stolen, I don't ask them what party they're from, and nor do I care, because at the end of the day, people deserve to have their property protected. The law should be upheld, and the people who do that for us should be supported. So, looking into this next election, I'd ask you, look at the last 2 years. Is Colorado better? Are we better off with the laws that they've passed for this state? I would say no. We deserve better in this state from our legislators, and I hope that they start listening to folks like me who asked them not to do what they did with 2217. I told our legislators that I talked to at that time, you were going to hurt policing. And we have seen that come to fruition. And we've seen that through the fact that we cannot keep staff. We keep seeing good people who are trained leave law enforcement. We have lost experience that we're not going to get back for many years when you lose a 15-year career police officer and then we replace him with somebody who's newly trained. That doesn't mean that's a bad person, but you're losing a big amount of experience. So this is a big problem, and I think we need to hold our legislators accountable. So I wanted to share that with you. Happy to talk offline whenever. People know how to reach me. You can email me at ddema@cityofwestminster.us. Always happy to talk.